Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rabbi Steve Kay, and I'm honored to stand here as we say shalom as we continue honoring and remembering Renee and the richness and fullness of her life. A few hours ago, the family joined at Fort Logan National Cemetery as we laid her to eternal rest next to Walter. And it's a beautiful moment, and I'm always thankful that we have places like Fort Logan because it really represents what American life is about. People of all faiths, all traditions, area codes, service, rank, wealth, not wealth, people of the earth, salt of the earth, are laid to their eternal rest. And every grave at Fort Logan is almost identical except for a star or a cross or other symbols that families may choose. So we just acknowledge that we had that service earlier. I said to the family also earlier, we have like 3 or 4 kids in the front, and they may make some noise and they may scream and may shout. And I said, make them a little louder. Chaos is good. That grandchildren and great-grandchildren, next generation. And Renee wouldn't want anyone to go, shh, get them out of here. I don't want them out of here. I want them here. That's what Renee would want. We want them too. So if you're not children lover or grandchildren lover, great-grandchildren lover, there's a cry room in the back for you. I begin with a reading from the book of Isaiah. The prophet said, Kol makra v'makra, kol basar chatzitz v'chol hasto, ki tzitzas de yavesh hatzir nabal, tzitz ruach Adonai nafsha bo, echin hatzir am yavesh, v'devar Eloheinu yakum le'olam. A voice says, cry out, and I say, what shall I cry? All flesh is like its grass, all its beauty is like the flower of the field. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the wind of our God shall endure. The grass withers, the flower fades, but we feel God's presence in so many different ways as we say shalom. I often say these words about the 121st Psalm, and since many of I know from the Denver Jewish community and your Southeast Denver Jewish community, I'm not going to talk about East Side or West Side, but you know, one of my favorite spots is when you're driving on Hamden and you're headed west and you get to that I-25 interchange and you look left and you look right and you can see the mountains, some days all the way down towards the Springs and all the way up towards Estes Park. And the psalmists, when they talked about the hills, they were talking about the Judean hills. And one of the teachings that I learned from, proud to call one of my colleagues, Rabbi Emily Hyatt, co-senior rabbi at Temple Emmanuel, she said, when we lift up our eyes, it's not just lifting up to the hills. When we lift up our eyes, it's like looking around this room today. When you're mourners, all of you, Renee's family, look up at your eyes and you're surrounded by so many wonderful people and friends who want to be with you while you're in the valley of the shadow of death. And so as we think about this Psalm, the 121st Psalm, what does it mean to lift up our eyes? Esai enai elahari me navo Ezri. Ezri me imaranai osa sheman v'aretz. Al yatein lamut reglecha al yinum shemrecha. Hine lo yanum v'lo yishan shemer Yisrael nait shmercha nitzicha dimincha. Yemem ha-shemesh v'lo yakecha ruach balala. Nai shmor mikol ra. Shmor nafshecha tzecha v'ocha me'atavi arolam. I lift up my eyes to the hills, and where does my help come? My help comes from God, who has made heaven and earth and the mountains we see before us. God does not let your foot be moved. God will not let you slumber nor sleep, because God keeps all of us surrounded with God's presence. God is our keeper. God is your shade on your right hand. The sun shall not smite you by day, nor the moon by night. God will keep you from all evil. God will keep your life. God will keep your going out and your coming in from this time forth and forevermore. Who shall ascend the mountain of the Lord, and who shall stand in God's holy place? This woman that has clean hands and a pure heart, who most times does not take God's name in vain. She that does not swear deceitfully, she that walks uprightly and works righteousness and speaks truth in her heart, nor does evil to her fellow, nor takes up reproach against her neighbor. Happy is this woman that loves being Jewish and loves God's commandments. Unto the upright she shines as a light in darkness, gracious, full of compassion, and full of righteousness. I call upon this poem by an Israeli poet. Her name is Zelda. And if you're under 30, Zelda is not just a Nintendo game. All right. So Zelda is a wonderful Israeli poet. And Renee, in many ways, was really I don't like the word, a woman warrior, a woman who understood what it meant to stand and demand a certain kind of equality when she involved in the fashion industry and letter and communications. She was never shy. That's not one word we ever use about her. And Zelda talks about that we're called by many names. This is the beautiful words that she wrote. L'chol ish yesh shem shenatan lo Elohim benatnu b'mo v'amo l'chol ish yesh shem shenatan lo kamato. Each one of us, every person is given a name. We each have a name given by God, and we have a name given by our mother and father. We are names that we are called by our children, our grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, our friends and our neighbors, our co-workers, and those with whom we dwell. We each have a name given by our stature and smile, and given by our attire. We each have a name given by the hills and given by the walls. We each have a name given by the stars and given by our friends. We each have a name given by our sins and given by our yearnings. We each have a name given by our enemies and given by love. We each have a name given by the celebrations and given by our work. We each have a name given by the seasons and given by our blindness. We each have a name that is given by the sea. And now we each have a name that is given by our death. In a few moments, you'll hear from family who will say these wonderful words about Renee. But if I was looking for one word, if we think about a quilt and the different patches of her life and the different elements, the one word would be love. She loved family. She loved life. She loved Judaism. She loved to kibbutz. She loved her chocolate. She loved lots of things. And so Rabbi Chaim Stern said these words about love. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, hope, dream to be, and to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me. Your word was gift to me. To remember this brings painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing to love, what death has touched. Right?
Thank you all so much for being here with us. We're sincerely touched, my whole family, for the outpouring of love and support as we pay tribute to our mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother. As we've come to understand, nothing can truly prepare you for the loss of a parent. Our world has been forever changed, and the weight of our grief feels relentless. Adding to our sorrow is the pain of watching our children mourn the loss of their beloved Nana. Our mother endured years of pain, but never lacked any spirit. And while we deeply long to have her with us, we take comfort in knowing that she is finally at peace. Before I go on, I must take a moment to thank my brother, Merritt, who spent hours and hours every day and week of the past several years taking Mom to appointments, coordinating care, speaking and texting with nurses and doctors, managing benefits, and overseeing every aspect of her well-being. He never wavered and always had Mom's quality of life and dignity as his priority. Our families will be forever grateful, Merritt, and we love you. Over the past few weeks, we've spent cherished moments by our mom and Nana's side, expressing our deep love and appreciation, sharing stories, and finding many moments of laughter. She was the heart of our family and our matriarch. A true heroine her entire life, she inspired so many of us with her strength, grace, and spirit. Her presence lit up and filled every room she entered, a radiant, charismatic soul who left a lasting impression on anyone she met. On Saturday afternoon, we had already spent several long days at her apartment, and somehow the women of our family ended up by her side. We hadn't realized it, but suddenly together, all of our hands were working to cover her with her blankets, touching her, and we softly shared our love for her. And she was able to mouth a thank you back to us. It was tender and beautiful as we stood and watched the women of our family care for our matriarch. It was a precious memory which I will forever remember, and it encompassed what my mother stood for: love, honor, care, and nurturing. I came out of the room and remembered one of our shared, my mom and my favorite songs on Shabbat was Miriam's Song by Debbie Friedman. And I can't explain why or how that popped into my head. It was then that I realized Mom reminds us of the prophet Miriam, Moses' sister, the woman who saved her baby brother by floating him on the Nile to the princess of Egypt. And further, Miriam, who led the Israelite women to dance, sing, and rejoice after the parting of the Red Sea. In Exodus, it reads, "Then Miriam the prophet, Aaron's sister, picked up a hand drum, and the women went out after her and danced with hand drums, and Miriam chanted for them." Our mother and our Nana was our very own Miriam, a true leader, a courageous and independent woman who never was afraid to speak her mind or speak on someone's behalf. And oh, she did. Like the biblical Miriam, she showed deep love and care for her people. Our mother and Nana lived every moment of her life with that same fierce devotion and unwavering concern for those she loved. When we had pain, she had pain. When we grieved, she grieved. When we cried, she cried with us. And when she laughed at us and laughed harder. There are countless stories about our mom, and you're going to hear some today. And though it seems like a funeral and we should be somber, well, it's not seems like a funeral, it really is a funeral. She'd make fun of me there. Our mother would prefer that we share some lighter and funnier moments because that's who she was: funny, spunky, hilarious, and full of life. She loved us all dearly, and she truly cherished her friendships. Even friends of her kids were also her friends. So even had a chance to say goodbye to several of my friends. But she also had another love. Just follow me here. Sugar. She loved desserts, was a touch particular about them, but always looked to the end of the meal as her favorite. She loved candy, cookies, cinnamon rolls, coconut cream pie, pumpkin pie, cakes, brownies, and the list goes on. Among her favorite candies, which you will see at Shiva, you won't believe this: Good and Plenty's Tootsie Rolls, Gummy Bears, Saltwater Taffy, Juju Fruits, Chocolate Suffers, Cinnamon Bears, Enstrom's, Red Hots, and some really expensive black licorice pieces called Snaps. $60 than last bill. She always reported on the dessert at Legacy, complaining if it was simply Jell-O. The confectioners of the world have lost an amazing customer this week. The last thing she ever ate on her final days were candy kisses from the freezer, Hershey's from the freezer, ice cream, icy pops, shakes, and a half of a chocolate nothing bundt cake buntlet on my birthday. She wouldn't have had it any other way. When she turned 60, I wrote a song we performed as a family, all of us. And it was to the tune of the Candy Man, but we changed it to the Candy Nana Can. Her love of candy was an obsession, and we are still in awe that she never gained weight or developed diabetes. Halloween was always a favorite, but not just for the candy. Then there was one Halloween in particular where Sherry got the idea that she wanted to wear a full-size Kool-Aid can for a costume contest at school. My grandfather cut holes in the arms in a large canister at my mom and dad's cleaners, and Mom took to making an exact replica of a grape Kool-Aid can. including every single ingredient, every single word. It was perfect. Hours of work and painting, and the logo was identical. I decided to go to school as a witch. My mother brought a costume for me, came to school, painted my face green. It was completed in less than 5 minutes. To her surprise and to Sherry's great disappointment, the Kool-Aid can got an honorable mention and I won second place. As the years went by, Claudia and Dad met and married. Mom and Claudia were sure to find a way to not only get along, but from time to time get in a little trouble and embarrass my dad. It got funnier and funnier as the years went by. It definitely wasn't as funny to Dad. As her health became more frail, Claudia would help my mom at family events by getting her something to drink or eat while encouraging her to take better care of herself. It was always fun to introduce guests at our home to Mom, Walter, Dad, and Claudia. It was hilarious to watch the look of confusion on people's faces when you tried to explain that we could all be together and enjoy one another's company. And when Claudia and Mom sat apart from Walter and Dad, it was hard to tell who belonged to whom. My mom also loved Candy and Chrissy, my stepsisters, like they were her daughters. Candy fondly remembers Mom insisting Dad and Claudia let Candy stay with her during vacation. I think they were just a little nervous what kind of trouble she would get Candy into. Mom made sure to let us know in her final days that she truly appreciated her relationship with Dad and Claudia. The most beautiful quality about her mom was the ability to embrace everyone she loved. She had a deep and genuine affection for her brothers, Earl and Stan of blessed memory, and her sister-in-law, Sharon. She cherished her nieces and nephews, Maury and Marla of blessed memory, and Scott, who's with us today, Josh and Liz, treating them as if they were her own grandchildren. I have to also mention that she has a very special friendship with Susan Gray, who was her chosen sister. Mom loved her late husband, Walter. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. It was just hard to keep everything in line. She loved her husband, Walter. They enjoyed many wonderful years together. In late 1999, Walter suffered a stroke, and Mom was by his side every minute of every day with unwavering affection and tenderness. She nursed him through his rehabilitation, standing beside him every step of the way. She devoted herself to his care, encouraging him and never once giving up. Her strength, commitment, and compassion were constant, a true reflection of the remarkable woman she was. He passed on June 10th, 2015, on his 89th birthday and was buried at Fort Logan Cemetery, receiving this honor as a veteran of World War II. And Mom was laid to rest, literally on top of Walter. Sorry, I have to say it, because we have teased her endlessly about it. She was laid to rest this morning. My mom was deeply devoted to our family and took great joy in being part of all kinds of family activities. One of her favorite traditions was traveling to Texas in December to celebrate her holidays, and her health declined. When her health declined, Samantha's husband, Will, flew to Denver to accompany her to Texas, ensuring she was well cared for during the journey. And he did the same for her return trip home, showing his true love for Mom. She loved every one of her children's and grandchildren's spouses. She treated them as though they were her own. And in return, every one of them, Christine, Steve, Jeff, and so forth, too many to mention, treated her with great respect and dignity. Each of them did so much to help her through the years. They were there daily toward the end of her life to pay tribute to a one-of-a-kind woman. My mother loved camping with her family, as long as it was more like glamping. She especially enjoyed trips down to Texas to visit Sherry and Steve and their families, where they'd go camping in the motorhomes. Of course, Nana often got cold, and they'd bundle her up in layers upon layers of their own clothing. There's a classic photo from one of these trips. You really have to picture it. They didn't have gloves, so they gave her boxing gloves that they happened to have to keep her hands warm, and she couldn't resist posing for pictures in a hilarious outfit: nightgown, robe, hat, skinny little legs, and long socks, and oversized boxing gloves. It was pure Nana, warm, funny, and always up for a good laugh. This is a good one. Jeffrey and I decided to also give camping a try with our children, and we purchased a huge tent. One of our favorite stories was when we took Mom to an overcrowded campground outside of Lyons. We were making breakfast one morning, and Mom literally spilled coffee down her shirt and pants. Even though Mom was tiny, she wore a girdle. Nana Spanx. Not many people can say that we are girdle camping. When the coffee spilled, it drizzled down to the girdle, and she was upset and rushed to the restroom to change and rinse her clothes. Out of nowhere, whoops, I'm sorry. She brings out the girdle from the restroom, which is dripping wet, and decided it needed to air dry on a nearby bush. As luck would have it, there was a big gust of wind. The four of us were chasing her girdle down the path in front of many campers. We laughed and laughed. She was a bit horrified. Now that I've shared that, my mother wore a girdle her whole life and was buried in one. I expect to have Smashed Chocolate Kiss in my closet anytime now. Just 2.5 years ago, it was time for Mom to live into assisted living as she was having trouble navigating life on her own. My niece Lauren and my brother Merritt set out to find the perfect fit for her new home. They found it at Legacy Village of Castle Pines. Legacy Village could not have been a better place. She loved her beautiful apartment, settled in, and was soon attending events and celebrations. She was often found at bingo, many happy hours, musical events, and community meals. It wasn't long before she had a group of friends who after just a few months were her best friends. They were found checking out the local bachelors and causing a ruckus down the halls of the facility. The staff loved her, and she was a constant source of entertainment. As a matter of fact, I think it was just 2 months ago that my mother decided she needed shot glasses in her apartment. So crystal shot glasses showed up, and she and her friend Shirley would have shrimp cocktail, and a little nip. As Mom's health became increasingly fragile, she required more and more physical support. Thankfully, my brother was able to bring in the care of Bloom Health, and that's when Kyle Mueller, PA, entered the picture. From the very start, the quality of her care improved significantly. Kyle made Mom feel like she was his only patient. He visited her twice a week and dedicated countless hours to reviewing her medications and overall needs with great care and attention. And after every visit, he took the time to update Merritt, and he would update us with detailed messages about her health. Merritt also was in constant touch with the director of Legacy, making sure each of Mom's needs could be met. It was the dedicated CNAs and nurses that took every need of our Mom to heart and continuously worked to care for her in every way possible. They truly loved helping her, as she always greeted them with a smile and warm words. She told every single one of them she appreciated them and would tell them, "I love you," before they would walk out of the room. She also described many of them as her BFFs. In April, we made the decision to involve hospice to assist in Mom's care and address her weakened condition. We were blessed by Nurse Rachel from Choice Hospice and many other staff members who constantly evaluated and changed orders based on her needs. And on top of it all, Rachel also reached out to Merritt by text and phone to keep us updated on her health. It was 2 weeks ago that Mom took a turn for the worse and wasn't able to walk on her own, even with her walker. The staff of Legacy rushed to her side with tears in their eyes and love in their hearts. Several times when we were with her, they would be visiting our Mom on breaks, not just one at a time, but 2, 3, and 4 people surrounding her bed. They would hug and love on her continuously. They also became closer and closer to each of us in her family. As we visited with them during the past several days, we learned what Mom meant to them They did everything they could to encourage her and prolong her life. We will always be grateful to each and every member of the staff and nursing team who cared for her. In the quiet hours of Monday morning, we received the call that Mom had passed. When we arrived at her apartment, we were met by the caregivers, tearful and embracing us with open arms. Through their words and emotions, it was clear how deeply she had touched their lives. They told us she had forever changed them. And when Feldmans arrived to take Mom, the staff gathered in the lobby, forming a honor walk, for Mom's gurney to pass by on her way out the front door for the final time. It was a powerful and deeply moving tribute. This is that pause, no transition. Mom never once lost her sense of humor, even as she was near the end. On Saturday, Sherry and I were in the room and leaned to tell her we loved her before we left. I told her, Mom, it's enough with this body. It's giving you too many problems and causing way too much pain. It's time to dance and play. She looked at us, and in a soft, weakened voice, she responded, yeah, this is bullshit. So much for encouraging her to move on to a better place. There was also one day when the granddaughters were in the room sitting by Nana's side when Samantha commented about how it must have been a pain to raise us 3 children. She opened her eyes and responded, yes, the 3 of them were obnoxious. As we say goodbye today, we carry with us the warmth, strength, and grace that my mother brought into every moment of our lives. She truly was the light of our family, steady, radiant, and always there to guide us through both joy and sorrow. Though the light may no longer shine in the way we once knew, it will never fade. It lives on in the love she gave so freely, in the lessons she taught us, and in the memories we hold close to our heart. We will miss her every day, but we will also honor her by living with the same compassion, humor, and courage she showed us. Thank you, Mom, for everything. We love you more than words can ever say, and rest peacefully.
We know out of the 10 commandments, we often ask which is the most important one. For me, in moments like this, it's the 5th commandment that says, "Kabed et avicha v'et imecha," to give honor to father and to mother. And the word kavod it comes from the sense of heaviness, a stone. And we're light in some ways with the humor, but the heaviness, the beauty of the words that Amy, you just spoke about your mom. And earlier you gave honor to your brother who was just been there as a guiding force, as the director of many circles at different times, making the way through care. And Sherry, as we talked about all the things about Mom and times in the motorhome, which I'll talk about, that the 3 of you were blessed to have a mother who kabed, who you honored. And we're thankful that you set the tone, not just for your children, your grandchildren, but for other people to see how we should be treating our parents. Because we say sometimes as we age, we sage. And as they age, we become their parents. We need to take care of them. And so I know the beloved grandchildren want to come up and speak and share a few words. So guys, it's now your time. Mary, you're speaking? You see, you got to be flexible, Mary. I learned that from you. Every time you thought you had it worked out. Good. Thank you.
We changed it up on the rabbi, so that's on us. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Merritt, if you don't know. And I'm up here to read some notes and things that come to my mind when I think about my mom. She had a very funny sense of humor, and she loved to laugh. We used to crack up all the time. I know my mom would rather we all laugh about her sense of humor as we grew up than to be here mourning her. So where to start? Well, you have to understand how my mom thought, defended us, her funny sense of humor, and even sometimes a bit naive. Let me just share a few quick stories. In middle school, my friend and I went to a party at someone's house. About 10 o'clock, mom came to pick us up, and one of their kids was out front throwing up in the yard. We got into the station wagon and quickly rolled the windows down so that mom wouldn't smell beer. As we drove away, my mom said, "I am so upset. I am appalled." My friend Miles and I looked at each other and thought, "Oh no, here we go." We thought for sure she smelled beer. Then she said, "How can any mother in good conscience send her son to a party with the flu and risk him giving it to the rest of you?" From then on, anytime anyone in the family had a hangover, we all said that person must have gotten exposed to the flu at a party. In Hebrew school in 5th grade, the rabbi that oversaw the education decided he had enough of me and our shenanigans. So he took several of us to his office and he proceeded to call my mom first and tell her that I was acting up and needed her or my dad to do something about my behavior. My mom asked what I'd been doing, and after he told her, she felt it was rather trivial. So she said to him, "Look, I'll make you a deal. I've never called you when he acts up at home, right? So please don't call me when he acts up at Hebrew school." The rabbi didn't find this as amusing, and that was the end of my Hebrew school. One day in elementary school, there were a few of us that were barking at girls. He proceeded to call my mom and tell her that we were doing this, and my mom's response was, "Really? Did he bite any?" She said, "Let me talk to my husband Rover when I get home, and we'll try and take care of this." This was my mom's sense of humor. In middle school, my grandmother thought it would be okay to buy me a Playboy subscription for my birthday. Of course, I loved this. Who wouldn't? In middle school, I'd been taking the centerfolds out, pinning them up on the walls of my ceiling and bedroom. My friends in high school all thought that this was very amusing when they would come over and come up into my room. So one day I was at school, she decided to dress these women. She bought a bunch of wrapping paper and she spent the day cutting out clothing, swimwear, bikinis, one piece, two piece, cute sundresses, glued them all to each and every one of my Playboy centerfolds. It took her all day, but she made her point. She was quite proud of her fashion designs, and later she went into work selling couture wear at high-end retail stores in Cherry Creek. My mom liked to travel, and a few years ago, she came with us on a trip to Hawaii. One night we went out to dinner at the new Disney resort, and we went there for their buffet. So we all got up from the table, filled up our plates, returned to the table, all of us except for mom. Quite a while went by, and we wondered where she had gone. She finally returned with a plate piled high with nothing but desserts and sweets. We asked her where she was the entire time, and she said that she went back into the kitchen chasing the sous chef to see if she could lick his utensils. We just about fell out of the chair laughing. And when she realized what she had said, she joined the laughter. We all had tears in our eyes. We were laughing so hard. The other funny story I think about is my grandmother let my mom borrow her car to pick up our elderly great aunt and uncle at the airport. After she picked them up, we had an accident in the grocery store parking lot. She backed into a light pole, which left the back doors inoperable and they couldn't open. She called my grandfather to tell him what had happened and how her aunt and uncle had to crawl over the back seat into the front seat to exit the car. He asked her what my dad said when he heard she had wrecked the car, and she said, "All this in Dad's new car?" She had quite the sense of humor. From sleepovers outside lighting fireworks to toga parties. Friday night dinners for what seemed like half of the dorm room at my college, and even a few actual achievements here and there. Mom was always there with us. We will miss her stories, her sense of humor, and most of all, her love. We love you, Mom.
Harold just shot across the room. And Renee would laugh.
Yeah.
Please.
This is why they put me in charge, because I'm the organized, in charge one to keep things moving. You guys have to come. Good afternoon. We are Renee's grandchildren. I'm Samantha, and this is my sister, Alexis, and we are the daughters of Sherry and Stephen Call. Jacob and Lauren are the son and daughter of Merritt and Christine Cohn. And Corey and Chelsea are the son and daughter of Amy and Jeff Becker. In 1991, the name Nana was born. Of course, our wrinkle cream loving woman was not going to go by Nana, or by Grandma, sorry. Chelsea said it best. She wasn't just a Nana. She was a community Nana. Our friends, boyfriends, girlfriends, everyone called her Nana. She had a laugh that made your stomach hurt from laughing with her. She was our matriarch. Taught us all that family comes first and to love your family with your whole heart. She was tiny but mighty. You never want to break any of our hearts because you will end up with a bag over your head in a family picture. She was the best travel buddy because she wanted to make sure you got in a little bit of trouble, but always finished it off with all different kinds of Kansi options. She was the person you called when you needed to talk. She would listen, but she gave you the advice you needed, even if it was tough love sometimes. I'll never go to a pool in the summer without thinking of Nana in her t-shirt, hat, and her hands on her shoulders bouncing in the pool. She was the best great Nana to my two kiddos. Kinsley got her love for all things sparkle and sweet. Hudson has her contagious laugh and her zest for life. And they both have her never met a stranger mentality. Thank you, Nana, for all the sleepovers and the countless card games, and most importantly, the amazing love and support. The six of us stand up here today, heartbroken, but we have some of the most amazing memories, all because of a woman named Nana.
When I think of Nana, I always, think about her laugh, how much she loved all of us, then how much she loved everybody that we love, and how welcoming she was, especially to my wife Taylor, and now to Jackson, who luckily got to meet Nana the other week. My parents always talk about when I was a baby, they left on a vacation, and when they came back to get me, I've never had waffles without syrup ever again after staying with Nana. Looking at this picture here, it made me think of when she was in her fitness era and she was wearing her Fitbit, and we had to regularly get updates about how many steps she had for the day and how proud of it she was, and her water aerobics at the pool in Wildcat. Or after our trip to Hawaii for several years following that, how every time she saw Taylor, she would refer to her as her roomie, even though Nana had her own room on the trip. And one of the biggest things that I'll always remember about Nana is laughter. and how important that was to her. We know from her endless stories, without a doubt, every single time in the story, she will end with, I said blah, 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 and they laughed. She had to make sure that everybody, everybody knew how hard she worked to make everybody laugh and try to feel better. So those are the things that I'll always remember about Nana.
Nana wasn't just my Nana. She was my best friend. She was the one I would call every day on my way home from work. No matter how hard of a day I had, we'd get up and talk about anything and everything, and she'd change my mood. And every time I'd get home, I'd end the phone call, and she'd always say that of how proud she was of me and how much she loved me. I love getting to spend the night at Nana's house because it was always gaming very late at night on the computer and then waking up to the most amazing French toast. From taking me to and from school to Cub food trips that we would walk to Cub Foods and a bucket scoop Chinese food, Nana and I always had an amazing adventures together. I know she loved Owen so much as he did her. He would call her Nana Banana. He has her love for candy, seeing the joy in everything, and love for family. Nana will truly be missed, but we know that she is watching over each of us. I love you, Nana, always and forever. We will listen to the cicadas sing.
So I'm Lauren. I know my father and my brother already kind of began to speak about one of our trips that we took, but Nana was the easiest person to travel with in the world. We would always laugh that you could fold her up and fit her in your pocket because she was so little. And so after our Poppy had passed, Nana would come on our family vacations, and that was something that we were really grateful for, that's something we get to look back on. But when we were in Hawaii, we got a game called Bean Boozled. And for anyone that doesn't know what this is, it's basically a game that has a box of Jelly Belly jelly beans, and it has 2 flavors that you can get for each color. So if you get a blue, you could get berry, or you could get mint toothpaste. You could get green, so you could get lime, or you could get vomit flavored. In Nana's case, when we were playing this game, Nana spun the spinner and ended up landing on white. She could have gotten coconut, but instead she landed with a stinky sock flavored jelly bean. First, she kind of looked and thought about it for a second, had to think about whether or not it tasted bad, and then she immediately spit it out. And instead of being upset that she got one that tasted bad, she spent what seemed like hours laughing about how hysterical it was that she got stinky socks. And still to this day, I can hear her laugh with that. And it really seemed like for the rest of the trip, that was just how she emulated her happiness and her laughter. For anyone that knows Nana, I would say that everyone I've talked to about her passing, the first word that comes to mind is Spitfire. And boy, is that true. And I would say that that's one of the things that us granddaughters have talked about, how grateful we are that she taught us how to be strong women. We've said a couple times, strong women, may we know them, may we raise them, may we be them. And the last thing that I'll end on, anyone that is friends with Nana on Facebook, you are probably graced with some comment at 2 a.m. on a photo that got posted 4 years ago. And looking around this room, all I can think is the exact same thing that she would comment on these. Love this and love you.
Well, hi, I'm Corey. If you didn't know, I'm the son of Amy and Jeff. Um, there's a saying that you live as long as you are remembered. And despite Nana leaving us physically, I know her memory and her legacy will last forever. Nana left a huge imprint on everyone she ever met. For such a little lady, her presence was larger than life. There were many things to admire about Nana, from her Spitfire attitude to her loving and silly nature. But the thing I admired most about her is just how she could make a friend out of anyone. It was impossible for anyone to walk into a room and not have a 30-minute long conversation with her. Whether you knew Nana for 20 minutes or 20 years, she always knew how to make you smile or burst out laughing. I fondly remember countless nights on the couch with Nana, hearing about her experiences programming giant room-sized computers with punch cards, selling the fanciest dresses to Denver socialites, or just how she plans to cheat the lottery and buy us all a vacation ticket. For as much as Nana loved talking, and boy, did she love to talk, she also loved to listen. Nana was always so caring and attentive to everyone. She would love to hear about your life, all your successes, and all your struggles, and she would always know the exact right words to say. Nana has been a huge inspiration to me. She never shied away from any challenge and taught me to always treat others with respect and care. While the rule can be cruel and unforgiving, Nana always brought sweetness, love, and an unending warmth to everyone she ever met. Nana's legacy of joy and compassion will continue to brighten the world as long as our family cherish her memories and allow her love to remain imprinted on our hearts. I love you forever and always, Nana.
Sorry, I'm shorter than the rest, like Nana. What do you even say to the person who is most loved in this world? The person who loved you just as fiercely in return. She wasn't just my Nana, she was my home and my eternal sunshine. While I'll never accept that 22 years was enough time with her, I was endlessly grateful for every moment I got to share. She filled my world with love, wisdom, and the kind of traditions that become lifelong treasures. She taught me there was no such thing as too much sass, and dessert is absolutely the best meal of every day. She showed me how to laugh loudly, love deeply, and savor in the sweetness of life. Your joy was contagious, your sass iconic, and your love undeniable. I will be looking for you in everything. In the smell of something sweet baking in the oven, in the sunlight that touches you coming through a kitchen window, in the clatter of dishes and the sounds of laughter during the holidays. I know you'll be there because in all the little things, you were the one who made them feel so big. You had the biggest sweet tooth. If it wasn't mentioned once, it should be mentioned again. Every recipe you made and have ever made will forever and always be known as Nana's. Every memory I have in the kitchen includes you. You love to feed people simply because you wanted to share in the sweetness. And that's how she lived her life, with generosity, kindness, and sugar. I want to be like the strong women who raised me, like Nana, like my mom, and I want to keep hosting the holidays so that they will always be filled with love, laughter, and endless food. Even when you couldn't stand and cook on your own, you proudly became the best taste tester, knowing exactly what a dish needed, even when all it needed was your approval. After years of asking, I finally have my own cookbook. And now I get to see yours, my mom's, and mine sitting together on the shelf. 3 generations of love side by side. These cookbooks aren't just recipes. They are memories and love that keep you close every time we cook and gather. Every time I open them, I feel you in the kitchen with me. You are brilliant, you are beautiful, you are the heart of this family. I will teach your recipes to my children. I will carry your traditions into every home I build, every holiday I host, and every table I set with intention and love. I will always be looking for you in signs, in dreams, in the strength I find when I need it most. Even though it absolutely breaks my heart that you won't be at my wedding, you won't meet my husband, and you won't hold my future babies. That you're missing all the moments I always pictured you in, through divine intervention, or just maybe pure Nana determination. She will be there, probably handpicking someone for me. You may not be there in the way that I wish, but you'll be wherever I need you to be, because you are my Nana. You will and will always be my light. I love you. I will miss you forever.
Don't sit down yet. Please just wait one more moment. So last night we had this conversation and the family asked me, what happens after you die? And like to ask that question to a rabbi, I want to know how many weeks we have to talk. So I went over to your grandmother's casket and I said, give me some advice. And here's what she said to me. You're my favorite? You're my favorite? Okay. You're my favorite. You're my favorite. Because one of her hallmarks was to say to each of her friends, her children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, you're my favorite. And what a wonderful attribute to feel that you have a relationship with someone where you're their favorite. You know, there's an old joke. What does it mean when a rabbi, pastor, minister takes off his or her watch and puts it on the podium? It means absolutely nothing. However, I'd be remiss if I didn't share some of my own thoughts for a few moments. We gather this afternoon to remember, to honor, and to celebrate this wonderful life of Renee, beloved mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, sister friend, and truly a proud Jew. You've heard beautiful, loving tributes from her family. These words really captured who Renee was: fierce, funny, faithful, and full of love. I want to share some reflections because I had the honor of knowing Renee and Walter as I officiated their wedding in 1993. And I remember it well, not just because it was a joyful and beautiful moment, but because Renee made sure I knew exactly how she wanted it done. She had a vision, and let's be clear, Renee has a sense of what's right and wrong and how she wants things done. And Renee had a way that she wanted this wedding done. And as you heard, to most people, she was referred to as Nana. Once one of her grandchildren's friends met her, she was no longer Renee or Mrs. So-and-so. She was just Nana to so many. Her presence was anything but simple. She was a force, a little like a warm hug with a sharp wit and a full plate of brisket. She was born here in Denver in 1943, the daughter of Harold and Elizabeth and sister to Earl, and who's with us today, and Stanley of blessed memory. She was one of the first students at the new George Washington High School, and the family were proud members of what I call the Old Beth Joseph congregation. Her Jewish identity wasn't a label, it was a legacy she lived with pride as being a Jew and a Jew in the Denver Jewish community. And as you heard, though she and I were divorced, they remained close. Renee built a meaningful relationship with Ira and Claudia, and their families celebrated holidays and birthdays and life milestones together with love and grace and unity. That was Renee, committed to the people she loved, no matter how life shifted. She was quick with a joke and had a no-nonsense sense of humor, and she spoke with love. Renee was fun to be around, as you heard. She never knew a stranger. Her humor, her honesty, and hospitality drew people to her, whether they met her once or knew her for a lifetime. Renee embraced every holiday with enthusiasm, cooking and gathering family to celebrate. Family celebrations were the center of her life, and it gave both meaning and purpose to her life. And later in life, she took a cake decorating class, and her family became the lucky recipients of her yummy creations, although they looked a little different in the early years. His desserts didn't just taste good, they had flair. If you got one of her cakes, you knew it was made with love and a little extra something added on. Renee married Walter of blessed memory in 1993, and together they built a life filled with joy, a fun sense of mischief and meaning. Their 1997 trip to Israel with Amy was one of the highlights of her life. And at the Kotel, some traditional woman came over and Renee had to tie a little red ribbon around Amy's wrist and offered a quiet prayer that one day that Amy might find the right man to marry. Prayers are answered, right, Jeff? Classic Renee, practical, loving, and spirituality creative. She and Walter also loved to travel, we heard, to Hawaii and Florida, and especially their little casino getaways. Sometimes they would go off the grid and everybody wanted to know where they were, only to call and she would say, "We're driving back from the Hawk." Translation, they had a great time and were in no rush to explain the details. She adored visiting with Sherry and Stephen and their children in Texas, especially the motorhome adventures. Sherry recalled that life on the road was always an adventure. And Merritt in our conversation said, Mom Renee was the center of the family. She was the glue that held us all together. She loved this family fiercely and would do anything for them. And it's true. Renee's greatest joy wasn't where she traveled or who she traveled with. It was being with family that meant everything to her. And you heard what a family she had: Merritt and Christine and Jacob and Taylor, Jackson, Lauren, Daryl, Lillian, and Sherry, and Stephen and Samantha, and Kinsley and Hudson, if I've got everybody, and Alexis and Joel, and great-grandchild Owen, and Amy and Jeff and Chelsea and Corey, who are now 22. I remember when they were born. I've known the Beckers a long time. And we heard Renee worked in telecommunications, but her real work was connections. She was a connector of people. She made friends everywhere she went. She was warm, she was direct, she was funny and loyal. She didn't sugarcoat much, except maybe her desserts. She told the truth. She called it like she saw it. And somehow people felt completely at home while she was doing it. Even in her final weeks, the warmth around her was palpable. At the Legacy Nursing Facility, the nurses and CNAs came by her room, not because they were assigned to her as a patient, but because they wanted to. They'd say hello, of course, grab a piece of chocolate, and soak in a little bit of Renee's light. And you heard when she passed, the staff lined up in the hallway in silence as reverence as Feldman Mortuary came to take her. It was a sacred moment, a quiet testament to the love and respect that she inspired. Renee loved and was deeply shared her long friendship with my mentor and my teacher, Rabbi Reyes Warren. Her Jewish values guided her life, and fittingly, this week's Torah portion, Parashat Pinchas, has a powerful mirror of who Renee was. She made it her mission to pass important Jewish values on to her children and grandchildren through food and ritual and stories. In this week's Torah portion, Zalafet has 5 daughters and no sons. And in those days, women were not allowed to inherit the land. And the 5 daughters went and they challenged Moses and said, "This is just not right. Women should be entitled to inherit." And guess what? Moses changed the Jewish law. And I can imagine Renee having that argument with Moses saying, "No way, Moshe, you may who you are, but that's not going to happen. Women should be able to inherit." Renee was proud of so much in life. And even though she was short, she stood tall. She spoke with purpose and insisted but firmly said dignity and treat people with respect. She claimed her rightful place in every room, in every conversation, and in every heart. And now, as we say shalom, as we say goodbye, we give thanks. We give thanks for her laughter, for the red ribbon at the kotel, for the frosting and all the chocolate kisses, for the bowls filled with candy, for the motorhome trips and casino adventures, for the hugs and the honesty and the humor, and above all, for her love. Renee was truly one of a kind. May her memory be a blessing. May we live like she did, joyfully, loyally, with a little bit of chutzpah and a lot of heart. And we never pass a candy bowl without thinking of her. Zichronan livracha. May her memory always be a blessing. And let us as a community say, Amen. I'm going off script just for a moment. After Fort Logan, I stopped at Costco. How could you not stop at Costco? And I scoured the aisles for a big bag of chocolate kisses, and I wanted to pass it out to everybody, but there were no chocolate kisses to be found this time of year. So there are lovely mints here at Feldman's, and take one on the way out. As we come to the conclusion of our service, the light of life is a finite flame like the candles of Shabbat. Life is kindled, it burns, it glows, it gives off beauty and rays of warmth. But soon it fades, its substance is consumed and is no more. In light, we see and can be seen. The moments of a flame dance and our lives are full. But as night follows the day's shadows, follows the flames and blur our view, we fail to see and can no longer be seen. Yet we do not despair, for our fate is more than a memory. With our lives, we give life. We are links in the eternal chain of darkness, of life and death, of light and life. I ask you if you are able to rise for the El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim, Shochei B'Romim, HaMeitzim U'Chanukla, Tachat Kafecha Shechina, Im Kiroshim, Utporim, Gizor Harigim Asirim, Et Nishmat, Esther Rachabat, Achara Moshe, Ben Avraham Valera, Shochan Anama, Ba'al HaRachamim, Sidi V'Sekiramim, V'Yisra B'Tzor Hilchaim, Yenishmata, Ainu Nolachta, V'Tanuach B'Shalom, Amiskava, V'Nomar, Amen. May the source of life, the fountain of all being, open our hearts to compassion and our eyes to wisdom, that with we might glimpse in perfect and in peace, in sadness, the way of all things. May Renee's memory be a blessing, and may we never let the light of her love grow dim in our hearts. May we remember all her worthy and righteous deeds, for that memory be forever bound up in the bond of eternal life. God is our eternal source and destination, our beginning and our end. May Renee's death awaken us to this truth, that the bond of love that we shared and share can never be severed in sorrow. May she rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. Let me share with you before Mourner's Kaddish the Shiva information that I had here, or if not, I'll find it again, or Feldman's will give it to me, and we'll share it with you. At the rising of the sun, it's going down, we remember Renee. At the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, we remember her. At the opening of the buds and the birth of spring, we remember Renee. At the blueness of the skies and the warmth of summer, we remember Renee. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember her. When we are weary and need of strength, we remember Renee. When we're lost and sick at heart, we remember Renee. When we yearn for some really good chocolate or just chocolate, sweetness, something in the candy bowl, we remember Renee. Most of all, when we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember Renee's guiding values that have guided us in the land of the living. When we have achievements that are based on her values, we remember her. As long as we live, she too will live, for she is now part of us as we remember her. We ask those who are mourners to recite the words of the Mourner's Kaddish. Yidgadal, Gadash, Meirabah, Amah, Yidgad, Ah, Yidgad. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach Leolam Omea Amaya. Yit Barach V'Yishtabach V'Yit Ba'ar V'Yit Maman V'Yit Naseh V'Yit Adar V'Yit Alev V'Yit Alal Shmei Kedusha Brichu Le'Elam Minkar Birchata V'Shirata Tushbachata V'Nechamata Zamim Ram Yama V'Imru Amen. Yehi Shloma Rabba Min Shmaya V'Chaim Aleinu V'Yal Kol Yisrael V'Imru Amen. Shalom B'Ramav U'Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'Yal Kol Yisrael V'Imru Amen. May the source of peace and comfort to all who mourn and bereaved. At this moment, which bears the memory of Renee, we join in love and remembrance. A link has been broken in the chain which has bound all of you together, yet strong bonds of home and love hold us each to one another. Eternal God, we give thanks for the blessings of all those of us who are mourners, those of us who remember our loved ones who've touched our lives. We give thanks for the blessings of their lives and how we've been enriched by so many people like Renee. We are grateful for the strength and faith that sustains us, this and our bereavement. Though our sorrow lingers, we have learned that love is stronger than death. Though Renee is beyond our sight, we do not despair, for we sense her in our hearts as a living presence. Zichrona livracha. May her memory always be a blessing, and let us say, Amen. This concludes our service. There will be Shiva Wednesday, July 16th, Thursday, July 17th, and Saturday, July 18th at the home of Amy and Jeff Becker, 9061 Sunset Ridge Court in Highlands Ranch. Most of you already know that, but I'm just saying again, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday at their home. And 5:30 is the word. And we wish all of you safe journeys and travels. And thank you for honoring really a wonderful soul who loved life. And glad we could make some of you smile and give some tears, because tears, as we say, are God's raindrops. Shalom Aleichem.